Do you ever feel like you're performing, even with people you love? The mask hides your true self. The mask portrays your false self. From this video, you'll get clarity on where your mask came from and take the first steps to authenticity. So, what is a mask or false self? The mask equals the learned or the learned persona created for safety, approval, or love. True self versus false self. So you're looking at people pleasing, being the class clown, or the overachiever. So you got the people pleaser, the person who just says and does things even though it might actually cause them harm or some kind of imbalance. It's an inconvenience to you, but you never tell the people who you're people pleasing to all the damage that's happening to you. Or maybe you will tell them later on in a very passive aggressive way, and it doesn't work out for you somehow. So yeah, people pleasing, it's a big one. The second one that I talked about, class clown. You like to be the clown, and sometimes you look quite foolish yourself, or you just like being tagged the class clown. You like people laughing at you because you're getting that attention, right? But it may cost you, like I said, you may feel the fool, you may look the fool, you may look really stupid, but it gains you that attention, right? Or the overachiever, as I mentioned, somebody who just likes to really work themselves into the ground and really overachieve, and they're in many ways overcompensating for something else. That's an overachiever. Does that sound familiar? Do any of those sound familiar to you? Because the thing is, everyone builds some kind of mask which normalizes your false self. It was an adaptive strategy, not a flaw. And it's important to note that, right? Be kind to yourself. It was an adaptive strategy. It's just all you knew how to do at the time. It's not a flaw. So how childhood shapes the false self. The main idea here is, as children, we trade authenticity for attachment and safety. Okay, so rather than be our true self, again, we hide it so that we can feel attached to others, or feel connected, and feel safe around them, like we belong. So some key childhood dynamics that create masks are conditional love. For example, I'm loved when I'm good, or when I'm quiet, or when I'm successful. Okay, so you overcompensate in those areas, but at the same time you're not actually saying what your true opinion of those things are. You just know that those things bring validation, love. It's more conditional love though, and approval. You're craving those things. So emotional invalidation. So feelings are minimized, you're mocked or ignored. Parentification, or being the strong one. So you're the one in the family that had to be strong for everybody. You had to be tough. You sort of brute force your way through life. You don't let those vulnerable or vulnerabilities in you show. You're being the strong one, but you're abandoning your actual personal needs, right? Because you're being strong for everyone else. Your needs suddenly are not number one priority. They take a back step to everyone else's. And that can lead to you actually feeling like you're unappreciated, like you're not actually, that your efforts are not even valued at all, because you're the only one in your head who feels like you have to do these things. The other people could be completely oblivious, even the ones that you're helping or think you're helping. Or maybe they do know, and they tread on you anyway, The other one is enmeshment, or being who your parents need you to be, not who you are, right? And again, you're putting yourself to the back burner just to appease your parents, right? Could be that your parents want you to work in their business. They want you to put your college, your school to the back burner. Or they want you to put sport to the back burner. So and sometimes this is all imagined too. It's just you in your mind thinking these things, that you have to do this. But your parents, might be doing it because they feel like they're trying to help you to establish a career in whatever they want you to do. And because maybe they see a lack of ambition in you, or maybe just a lack of direction, and they're just trying to help. So it can be both sides. But the thing is, if there's no communication, if you're not putting up these boundaries, if you're not actually communicating how you really feel about these things, then you're just going to continue to do this, and essentially self-flagellation occurs, right? You're hurting yourself, but it's unnecessary, and sometimes, well, on all occasions, it's necessary to put some boundaries up and to speak out for yourself. Remember, this is your life, right? You're living for you. Other people don't care as much about your life as you do. As much as it feels like your mum and dad love me, you'll be surprised to find that sometimes, there are limits to what they'll actually do for you, because they themselves have a lot to look after by looking after themselves. So don't be, offended by that fact. So that's just something else that can come out of this. So let's look at the good child. It's another archetype. The good child is the one that, you get that approval from being the child that never does any wrong, right? Never takes any risks in life. Is always doing what his parents expect him to be doing, him or her. So the good child gets some approval, gets something out of that. Then you got the performer, the one that's the drama, always getting attention for causing drama. And then you got the caretaker, which is the one that, like I said, the eldest child, for example, just an example, someone who's always taking care of the group, right, or the family, and that person puts their own needs to the back burner and doesn't say a thing about it, but they're the caretaker, and they get a lot of, mileage out of being the caretaker and being called the caretaker, And just going back to the performer, there's different kinds of performers too, because you could be the overachiever performer, right? So you could be that person that guy who just always achieves highly, and to go lower, you're going to hurt yourself because you've just put yourself out as a role model for overachieving. And so, you might be absolutely exhausted, but you're not going to tell anybody because you're going to lose that tag of overachiever, and these things can be quite damaging to your spiritual and your physical and emotional health. So just be careful of that. So what are the signs you're still living from your mask even after all that? Being aware of it and doing a little bit for yourself. Well, chronic people pleasing and fear of disappointing others, that's a sign. Feeling empty, numb, or off after social interactions. Often, we need to really energize after these social interactions, because we've spent so much energy trying to play out these roles that we've created for ourselves, or that others have created for us, that we're drained, absolutely drained of energy because of it. It's just funny too, because, after all that, when you think about it, you did it all for nothing. Another feeling is anxiety around conflict or being seen in your messiness, right? So it's like you don't like conflict, you don't like also being caught out, because you might have been messy but slack, and people will judge you for that. So you got a bit of anxiety around the conflict of it all, right? That's just really an anxious moment for you. Another sign is you struggle to know what you actually want, like or feel. You know, you're just stumped. Like, I don't know, because you're just non-committal, right? You don't want to make a wrong statement. You don't want to say something that other people don't like. So you'd rather stay neutral and just not say anything. But the thing is that, again, you're putting your own thoughts and feelings to the back burner. And all of these things always build up, right? And they come out at the wrong time and manifest in the worst ways, or the ways that you perceive to be not timely, not a good time for these things to come out. So that's why it's just another reason why it's important to sort these things out in yourself, so that you've got a little bit more say in how and when these things pop out in you. So if this resonates, you might be living from a mask. You know, drop a comment, you know, if this is you. So what's a compassionate reframe for yourself? Because your mask was protection, and that's how you've got to frame it for yourself. And rather than trying to, you know, beat yourself up about it, never do that. All right, you deserve to be happy. You deserve love. So you don't need to beat yourself up all the time. All right. The mask was an intelligent, protective, and often necessary device that you used to adapt to your situations. Okay. I invite you now to drop the self-blame and see your mask as a younger part of you that was trying to keep you safe. All right, because that's what it was trying to do. And this is tied again to the inner child and the shadow work which you have to do to be able to help that inner child, right? Because that inner child is carrying scars, wounds, deep wounds, because they weren't acknowledged, right? Because you abandoned yourself back in those times and you chose attachment, approval of others, you know, and conditional love from others, right? So don't worry about that. That's not your fault. You know, that's what you knew to do. It was a defensive mechanism, but that was then, and this is now. So yeah. So what are the first steps towards reclaiming your authentic self? First one is step 1, awareness. Noticing when you slip into performance, and you can notice that by your tone of voice, your posture, and giving out automatic yeses all the time, being a yes man or woman. Number 2 is curiosity. Ask, what am I afraid would happen if I didn't perform right now? Right? Okay, so it's asking these questions that you don't normally ask and no one asks of you. Right? Why am I afraid? What am I afraid will happen if I don't do this performance, right? No one's ever asked you that before, I bet. Step 3, tiny truth telling, starting with small, low risk honesty, saying your real preference and admitting you're tired, for example, right? So that's it. Well, the overachiever needs to admit that I'm tired and I can't keep this up anymore. You know, this is too much. You know, that's a huge thing for an overachiever to say, right? Or just, you know, I can't do this anymore. There's no way I can do this for you. Where normally, you know, you would be doing whatever it is you're performing or doing for this person. You would normally do it at the drop of a hat. You straight away a yes. But this time, you just say, I'm sorry, you don't even have to say I'm sorry, because you've got nothing to apologize for. You can't help it if you have certain feelings and you are in a certain way or in a certain state, right? So don't apologize. Instead, what you want to do is just say, hey, look, I'm gassed. I can't do anymore, right? Or I can't afford that. I can't buy you any today. Okay? In fact, I probably won't be able to buy you any, because if truth be known, I've never been able to afford it. You know? So those little things can help. Just a little tiny truth, right? And that can lead to you more and more coming out with the full truth, your full voice of what you really mean. So step 4, self-validation, giving yourself the validation you craved as a child. So, just think about it. When did I first learn it wasn't safe to be fully myself? What role did I play in my family to feel loved or useful? What am I most afraid would happen if I stopped performing? Right? When you ask yourself these questions, you start to realize and it can be quite jarring, quite shocking to you. And you think, wow, I really abandoned myself quite a lot. I don't even speak up for myself. And it might surprise you that you do that. On the other hand, you might full know, but to actually verbalize or to think the answers to these questions, or to say these questions out loud to yourself, might wake you up. It should do. So I just want to reassure you that you don't have to rip the mask right off right now, okay? Don't be such a savage, unless that's how you feel. That could be how you are when you greet me in this video. You might be in that in that zone, where you can just rip the mask off, but you don't have to. I need to let you know that really strongly. You don't have to rip it off. Just small little truths here and there will help, but just keep building on those. Don't give up. Keep saying these little truths, because this is your life and you truly do deserve love, and you deserve to be successful in this life. So I will invite you to drop a comment if you want to, of which mask archetype that you most relate to. Is it the overachiever? Is it the good child? Is it the class clown? And so if this stuff is really resonating with you, and you want to be alerted for when the next video like this comes out, just subscribe. Hit that subscribe button for more content on shadow work and authentic self, and you'll get notified. There's another video that I've created already, and I'll continue to build on this subject, but the video is called Original Self versus Survival Self, and there's also why you betray yourself and how to finally stop. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you really get something out of it, because that's the most important thing. I do these videos to reach out to you, and to find those people who this message resonates with, because when I was a child, I remember I didn't have people that understood me and were willing to help me to understand myself. And you know what? That is the majority of adults today, is we do need to, acknowledge our inner child and do the shadow work to reclaim our voice, reclaim ourselves, and integrate those parts of us that we might call dark, but are actually still part of ourselves and part of making ourselves whole. I love you so much, and I really hope for the best for you. And just some good news for those people who have asked for it. I've decided to create a new video series on the historical side of churches, to help those people who are still sort of trying to recover from leaving their church and entering into some other perhaps spiritual realm. So this historical series is going to start in a couple of days, and that's for people who really like the historical side of spirituality, and particularly Christendom. Other than that, keep a watch for my next videos on the inner child, and self-abandonment and shadow work and energy. Okay, hopefully these things help you. Okay, so I've said enough. Like I said, if this resonates with you, click the like button, and if you want to continue to hear the videos like this, just hit the subscribe button also, and the bell, which gives you reminders. Okay, everybody, have a wonderful week, and yeah, be your authentic self.